I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing incredibly well. Thanks for coming on the show at such short notice. Veed Fabric 1.0, is that how we're describing it today?
Let's go with that.
Dude, oh, I saw the model last night at Veed. I was there with
Yeah,
Unicorn Mafia. It looks awesome.
it is. It is. It's really exciting. And yeah, this is why it's very, very much last minute because it was launched just yesterday. So you are hot off the press and one of the first ever users. So excited
I,
to be here.
Honestly, this is going to be an amazing conversation. I'm deeply looking forward to it. I love the work you guys do. I think I've been using the product for about 2.5 years now, give or take.
Brilliant.
I think I had an interview. I said had an interview. I was one of those user interviews with your chief product officer, and it was great.
Oh,
We had
perfect.
a great vibe. Love the product. But most importantly, we've got to get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little about your background. I see we've been into a couple of different places. Veed, then Revolut, and then back to Veed for a four-year stint. Tell us.
Yeah. Well, that's a story in itself, but probably haven't got long enough to go into that. My background's a bit meandering. I did engineering at university, and I'm a slightly, just to date me, when I left university, kind of startups weren't really a thing. Facebook didn't exist, the iPhone didn't exist, so just we barely had Nokia's
Startups
back
in the
then.
modern sense didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, of course, Google was around, but only. So yeah, actually, I went into the city into finance. Is what a lot of kind of maths people do, and I did worked in private equity as an investment director at Barclays for a number of years. Um, but I had an early midlife crisis and realized that I just love building things. Kind of wanted to get back to my engineering roots. So that's why I kind of if you kind of pair investment strategy, businesses, knowledge with engineering, building, and I love doing art on the side. So a bit of design. If you do that Venn diagram, you kind of got a product type role. And I realized this, so I kind of quit my, as my wife would remind me, very well paid job to do something far riskier and go and work in startups. But
It's the
something
beauty
far
of the
more
game.
fun. Exactly. So yeah, and I've been working with tech startups ever since in product roles and different companies, different hats, including, as you point out, Revolut, but also at Veed. And Veed is a slightly funny story because I knew Saba, the founder, one of the two founders, just casually, and I taught myself to code. So I said, "Can I join as a junior developer?" So I actually joined as a junior developer when there's only 10 people. I then left because when it was just a tiny startup, it wasn't really able to pay me, and I got a young family, so needed to make some money. So I joined Revolut for a bit, but then Veed exploded and said, "You want to come back?" Actually, because we've got skyrocketing revenue, and we're growing at some crazy rate. So I said, of course, and here we are.
Love it. Right, let's get into Fabric. Like, what role have you played in building this thing out? Because, you know, when I first used Veed and we had a conversation with, I forget your CPO's name, um, around like, yeah, around what it was that you were building, I was very much like, oh, it's just a video editing tool on the internet. And I think what I was taken aback with was the fact that he was like, no, we want to be the creative tool on the internet, more than
Yes,
just making videos, just more than just the editing suite as a CapCut or a Final Cut or a Adobe replacement. It was something larger than that, and it feels like this model is a step in that direction. We're here to stay, we're here to play, and ByteDance and CapCut are not going to take all of this market from us.
yes. Well, you said it perfectly, really. I mean, I think I don't know how familiar your audience is with video. Obviously, I'm in it all day, every day, so I might skip some bits. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's these traditional video editing tools that have been around for ages, like Premiere Pro and Final Cut, etc. These are, the heavyweights. They're used by filmmakers, the BBC, etc. And then you get this kind of generation of people doing YouTube and then social media, and you've kind of got this huge spectrum. The far bigger market, actually, of course, is the number of people doing short form video, and the kind of traditional tools are very good, very, very powerful, but aren't really geared up for it. And they kind of geared up for social media. They're
Mhm.
very intense and require a lot of work. And so, the first phase of Veed is actually kind of simplification and speeding up that process because YouTubers, yourself probably, you want a fast and simple process. You just got to ship a video every week or maybe even every day. And so you can't be tinkering in a very complex tool. So that was kind of the first wave of Veed. And that's what catapulted our first wave of success, and doing things specifically like adding subtitles. A lot of people know us. We're arguably the best
You're the
subtitler on the
subtitle
internet.
people, right? Like when you think of Veed, you think subtitles.
That was very much what we made our name on, because it used to be it still is. If you go to Premiere Pro, I shouldn't be too bad mouthing, but you still have to very much kind of almost type it all in, which is crazy in this day and age. And actually, we forget, but subtitles, of course, is AI. It's taking audio and then flipping
transcribing
it,
and then turning it into text that is movable on a screen.
And so that was before this kind of wave of LLMs, and so we've been doing AI and applying it in the latest technology to video editing for a long time, and we're still doing that very much. But this new wave is obviously it got the headlines for the last 3 years, and particularly, frankly, even just the last few months, we've got generative video AI, and that changes the game because creating a video used to be kind of two parts. You have to go and shoot the thing, get your lighting, you've got a nice setup with decent microphone, get decent recording, and then you have editing. And editors were getting better and better, but they wouldn't help you create the content. You had to go and do that yourself. This is why generative AI is very, very different. It allows you to create the content. So it takes that complex part out. You can literally type some text in and get a video. I don't have to hire a studio. I don't have to sort my beard out. I should do for this, but yeah, exactly. You don't need an actor. You don't need all this other stuff. You can just create a video, and that opens up video to a huge new audience of people that would be saying, "Oh, it's too expensive, too slow. I can't do it. I haven't. I hate to see myself on camera. This is another big issue lots of people have." So it's the generation part which is completely changing, and that's what Fabric does. So happy to go into that.
Let's get into it. Like I think there's a story here in understanding how to use it, and like what is the archetype of the person that needs to use Fabric or should be using Fabric or potentially needs to be open to using Fabric. And the other half of this is the specs. Like how does this tee up against some of these other video models? Is it standalone? Is it a wrapper of another model, or is it something else? And I like to start with that. So how the hell did you create this thing? Because it's come left of field for me. I was very much a VO3 user. Obviously ByteDance has brought out another one that sort of beats that. Where does Fabric sit within the context of this? Or is it playing in its own lane right now?
It's yes. I think it's a very confusing space,
right?
Particularly if you're not deep in it, right? Google's got its video model. Oh, OpenAI's got its video model, and yes, they are all video models, but they are all different. And this is why the lanes are actually you're spot on with this. It's quite a different lane to the VO3, I think most people may have, well, maybe not, may have heard of. It's Google's biggest kind of groundbreaking one. It got Nano Banana as their image one, and it kind of VO3 is the cousin. And then there's other people like ByteDance doing C-Dance, etc., and then OpenAI have got their one, etc. And they all do this to varying degrees of quality, and it's getting incredibly good. The kind of the things that really differentiate Fabric as opposed to the others, though, is actually if you go and use VO3, it's amazing, but you can only generate 8 seconds of video. So you kind of think, oh, I can do this, but then I have to create 8 seconds and then another 8 seconds. And it's quite painful. And it's very, it's quite complex to do that. But we've got a slightly different approach. What you do with Fabric is you start with an image, you give it an image. And by the way, you can generate any image. It can be a photo of yourself, but you can go to Midjourney and create, a cyborg version of yourself or whatever. It can be quite cartoony or anime or whatever you want it to be. And then you give it an audio file. And similarly with the audio file, it can be me doing a recording, or I can use Veed's got its own within Veed you can do text to voice generation. So you can then just type it and then you can create a voice. So audio plus image, both of which you can generate. You can then combine that and that can produce a video, which can be up to a minute long. So it's still not hours. The technology, and it gets incredibly complex and expensive beyond that. But it can be up to a minute long, which will cover you off for most social media use cases.
And so that's really what you're building for, is very much the
Yeah,
social media short form, or potentially
exactly.
like ad reads type of vibe right now, with a
Yeah.
goal I'm assuming is that actually as the technology gets better, as we innovate the product, it's going to get longer, it's going to get more fluid, it's not just
Yes.
going to be talking head, it's going to compete against some of these more dynamic models with where there's multiple features that are being built into them. So like I take a
Mm.
VO3, I can plug it into like they've got that, I think it's called Flow, where it's almost like this
Yes.
cinematic editor, where it's like, okay, so there's the first frame, there's a second frame, there's a third frame, here's the story. I'm assuming that's the way that we're thinking about this, but we're starting very,
Yes.
very small at the minute 60 seconds.
Yes. Exactly. But the AI guys will be screaming at you, saying that actually that's incredibly long for an AI video.
It's no, but it is very long. And I think that's what's quite cool,
Yeah.
is you kept the character consistency from what I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very high quality. And I couldn't tell in the demo yesterday, right? But I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it had been like Saber had upscaled it or something. But it looks like 4K footage off the bat. Like it's not down
Yeah.
res to 1080p like in a lot of other ones. You've got to almost take it away, up res it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's worth saying that we're talking about VO3 like they're a separate thing. Actually, Veed offers as a bundle. So VO3 is one of many video creation tools, and it's quite expensive, but it's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Veed actually offers a lot of this within its editor. So when you come to Veed, we've got an editor at the core, but you can actually then, if you want to generate a video in VO3, you can within Veed. So,
And so actually you
or
can
you
play
can use
between the
Fabric.
two models. And so
Exactly.
Veed is the orchestrator. And it's like, okay, so then humor me for a moment. Why
Yeah.
did you have to go and build one?
Because of these differences. So number one, if you want 8 seconds of video, fine. But as soon as you don't, most people currently don't. You want something longer, then you need something longer. We also specialize, and it's very much relevant to our niche. Google's going for the bigger picture, as are Kling, as are ByteDance. Um, you know, we're not creating Hollywood films, right? 90% of the videos that people create on us are kind of this format where, I'm talking to you and it's a kind of a podcast, or it's a kind of, I'm doing social media, and it's very much a talking head. And because we were able to reduce the scope of the video creation required, therefore you can make it longer and you can get other advantages, and it can be cheaper, importantly. So you can create many more of them. And you can create multiple versions. So one of the other challenges with AI is you create a version and you may not like it, and it takes quite a lot of time and money. But if it's half the price, you can generate 2 or 4 and just pick your favorites, and that's a big game changer.
What was the inflection point that allowed for that to happen? Like, how were you able to get it so cheap and so quick?
There's been fundamental. We are definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. There is so much research, so much money going into the industry right now. Papers are being published left, right, and centre. I have just to warn you, I am not an expert on this.
We got to get some of that
product side.
research team
I'm
on.
not. Yeah, exactly. You'll have to interview some of the other guys. But yeah, no, and it's increasingly new kind of foundational models being released that every week at the moment. Is crazy fast. So a lot of that you can now, it's the building blocks are there for you, and it's kind of adding a layer on top, which is why we're able to move relatively quickly and without the billions of dollars that you see of OpenAI. I was just going to finish actually this third point to kind of finish your earlier point about why is this model also kind of quite interesting for your space, because of this talking head. It's obvious but not obvious, because actually most video models don't have audio. VO3 does, but it doesn't have spoken audio, or it can do spoken audio, but that's not what it's specifically trained for. It can do explosions, it can do car screeches, it can do everything, but then it makes maybe the audio not quite so crisp. So, and if you go to do another video generation, you can create an amazing looking video, but if it's not syncing up with your audio, it's very problematic. You can have it as a background video, but that doesn't really work quite often if you need to have something in the foreground that people are talking to. So all of those things are kind of unique to our use case, which is why it's so exciting and fun.
How do you think about it in the context of the product then? Obviously, we've touched a little bit on how Veed is sort of the orchestrator that allows for these models to flourish and you to play with all of them. Like, what's your thesis on how this sort of becomes a an ecosystem where all of these models can coexist, and actually Veed gets to the Veed tooling competes at a larger level with tools that are not just editors but are cinematic suites?
It's a great question. We almost have this debate on a weekly basis because it's really flips product.
Yeah,
Product
it must
used
be
to
really
be
annoying, like almost because the
yeah,
roadmap just goes out the window.
yeah,
You're like, oh, great, we can build this now.
yes. I mean, yes, you're actually spot on because literally something else gets released. We've just integrated an API with an image generation model, and it's outdated. It's like right, got to do that again. There's a bit of that, but also as I was kind of alluding to earlier, I think it really flips the way you can do video creation. I'm not going to say video editing anymore. I'm going to say it's generative editing where you can generate and edit. So you almost puts a hard line right down the middle of the product. So half of it now is about generating audio, text, voice, image, video, and the other half is then kind of combining that, splicing it, cutting that, and matching that. You can optimize for one, or it gets a bit cluttered. This is causing lots of fun for the design team at Veed, and we haven't got it right. I think we're going to still optimize and change and chop and change and keep going.
Give me some insight into that, please.
Yeah,
I would love to know, how do you think about the design of a video creation tool today? Because yes, Veed's heritage and Veed's roots are very much in the editor, but we've transitioned out of that into a generative tool, right? And I don't know about you or how you think about it. I'd love to know, but chat is not the way forward for this for me. It's very much, there is an advanced layer and there is a more basic layer that exists that allows me to think and curate. And then I want to get in the weeds of like, all right, I need this animation, I need this here. We're going to cut here. How are you thinking about it there?
you're spot on with these questions. I think we need to hire you for that. Like that's very astute. Yeah, you're exactly right. The
I
first
do my
wave of video
research. We don't play around.
the first wave of video generation and many of these tools, even OpenAI, is the chat GPT is fundamental. It's text, but text is a terrible way to describe me.
God, it's so bad.
It's and image is the same as video, so it's a terrible way to describe a video. You kind of want to say, oh, go that thing over there and bounce like this, and it's really hard to write that down. And that was the first wave, so we've loyally quickly implemented that, but yeah, I can't see that being the long term. And you see this already with some of the image generation stuff. Normally you upload, yes, you have a text description, but you'll upload a style and you give it a couple of images as prompts, or you'll give it a starting scene, right? And this is actually what we're doing with Fabric. You'll give it an image, so you spend a long time, maybe not a long time, but you can kind of generate 100 images, which is far faster and cheaper, by the way, rather than creating 100 videos, some text. And then you pick one that you really like and you're going to stick with that. And then use that as the prompt, really, as the primary prompt, and you give it the audio. And yes, I think the next generation is very much, that might be enough for social media, but if you suddenly want to do a full-fledged film, and I'm not just sitting here I'm relatively static. I'm not really, the background's not changing. I need to run off, stage left. That requires another level of kind of modeling, and you kind of can do it, but the way you do it right now is I'll generate 100 videos and delete 99 if they won't be correct. So there will be some tools, and there's ways you can do splines. You can generate a starting image and an end image, and we're playing around with that right now. Actually, in fact, we use it in a couple of our advert videos to give you a sneak peek of what's coming next.
Love it.
You can do amazing transitions. You might spot this in one of our latest videos, but you can have yourself here and then transform into a beach where you're kind of got flowers around your neck or whatever, and a margarita in your hand. You can do crazy spins between the two just by giving it one image. And
it feels like a combination of what Kling does mixed in with some of these other image and video models. Is that now? So are you leveraging that, or is that just in-house Veed?
No, we are magpies. happily picking up whatever we can find. We are, I think.
But instead of
Uh,
like branding it as it's this, it's like here's what you can do with it, not what it is.
yeah, yes, very much. I mean, that's always been the case with product. It's not. No one really cares about how it's built. They care about what they can do with it, the value they can get, and so yes, we will do our little bits ourselves where we need to, and there's a gap in the market. But we will very much also bolt on and bundling the best of what else is out there, and I think that's the value that we offer. We've seen this happen already. We've seen it happen with subtitles. So where we started offering transcriptions, so taking an audio to text, we used one provider, but then somebody else came along, and then somebody else came along, and then did it in different languages that they didn't have before. So we actually, what we provide to our end user is an amalgamation of the latest and best model for each language in each market. And they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to go. They don't have to learn the differences between Kling and VO3 and all. There's quite a level of complexity that you and I are happy to go to, but most people don't want to think about it, and they just want it to work. So that's the kind of wrapper that Veed puts around it all.
I like it. I think that what you've been able to do with the product is simplify the whole process of creation.
Yes.
And that's really why like I've end up canceling a lot of my other subscriptions just so that I can end up coming back to Veed. And don't get me wrong, I'll say it quite happily and transparently. I've churned 4 times, but I always find
You come
myself
back.
gravitating back, right? And one of those things is the design. It is that you've packaged it in a way that's simplistic, it's simple. The way that the team is building it, obviously we touched on the roadmap and how there really isn't one a lot of the time. It's like you're sort of building it at a cadence or at a velocity of everything else. But what I've come to understand is everything is rooted in some foundational philosophies. What is that for you and the team at Veed?
Yeah, well, I think we're very open about this, and it's exactly what you said. We're very keen to democratize video making. So I often describe it as if you think about the kind of documents you produce at work, you produce an email, a Word document, and maybe a PowerPoint. You don't go to a PowerPoint editor to create your PowerPoint. You can do it yourself. And at some point, people got that, but they haven't got it with video. We're not there yet. If I ask most people to create a video, they'd be like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I don't want to be on camera. Awkward. And they think it's too complicated and expensive. And we haven't seen the switch. And there's an assumption there. And the assumption is they want video. But I think that's well proven. Everyone knows it's more engaging. So if you're doing marketing, it has to be a video. If you're doing training, it has to be a video because people's memory retention is much better with video. So people want to produce video. They just can't or feel they don't have the skills. So we're, very much, we want to make it really easy for anyone to create a video. And now you don't even need an image of you don't even need a kind of starting studio. You can just type it in and I can have a fuzzy version of myself saying it for me. And it takes away a lot of the pain of that. So that's just one step along this path, but the end goal is still the same.
The process of creation is something that a lot of people hold dear, right? And as you said, you Veed in democratizing that, right, and being able to say like anyone can create. Do you not feel like we're just going to end up with a lot of slop for a while? And you're sort of the product is built in a way to allow for that. What are some of the guardrails you think about when you think about creation in the process of video or the process of images in the context of Veed?
Yeah, so I think of that actually the same way as writing. It used to be that it's only newspapers. You'd have to read a newspaper. But of course, now anyone can write a blog on the internet. And you could argue, yes, there's an awful lot of rubbish on the internet. So it becomes, the problem doesn't become, it's not about creating it. It's not being, anyone can now write content and stick it on a website. Anyone can then kind of publish it to the world instantly. The problem becomes around curation. It's like, right, now I need a curated feed of what's best or recommended, or I'll follow certain people. So it switches. So I think, yes, inevitably, with the democratization, there will be, and there's some valid concerns, ethical concerns around this. That's a whole another talk maybe. But there's issues around deep fakes and other stuff and misuse of the technology. That kind of already exists in many ways in other forms, but it will be accelerated by AI and made to look more realistic and therefore possibly more dangerous. Um, I think the guardrails, increasingly there's well, we have filters to stop certain things happening. Certain videos on ours, and we've got to tighten up this as well. But getting increasingly getting kind of watermarked or fingerprinted. I don't know if you know about this.
I do,
So
but
you can know if
explain
it's
it for us.
yeah. So there's there's a fear that AI will generate videos that will be so realistic people won't know whether it's real or not, and that is actually happening already. I'd argue, even in a live context where you're having a chat with someone. And
I know a couple of people that are quite literally building that, and it's insane.
yes. Well, I mean, I can't remember if it was in Japan. I think it was somebody had a live chat with the CEO and the FD of their company, and they handed over $6 million or something because they were yeah. And I can't remember the numbers.
Wild.
This is about 6 months ago, and it was just one person with 6 AIs chatting to them on Zoom.
Insane.
But so yeah, so coming back to it, so a lot of the AI kind of generators and publishers have taken it upon themselves to put in fingerprints, so invisible, so you wouldn't know it, but 6 of the pixels in this image have been changed, and so you can then scan the image, and someone will know instantly that it's been AI generated. You wouldn't be able to visually see it, but it's kind of embedded into the end of video, so that people know it's not necessarily a real video.
Ben, before we let you go, I've got a couple more, right? And I'd love to round out this episode, this segment with you on this. Who do you like in terms of filmmakers or photographers or cinematographers? Like, where do you take your inspiration from?
Oh, who do I like? I've got to get a great reference for you. I mean, stylistically, but I feel like it's a bit of a cliche. I do love the Wes Anderson style. So I do
Yeah.
love seeing the application of that because he does have a very definitive style. And I love the quirkiness of it, and seeing people kind of replicate that and play with that in AI and regenerate that on their, like, taking their holiday snaps and regenerating it. I think it's a lot of fun.
And who do you like in that,
Um,
in the product context? So when you look at the greats, for me, it's a Johnny Ive, right? I want to be in the world that that man thinks in because I want to use the product the way that they've envisioned it. Who do you look at from a software POV of as you're building out the product and think, geez, the way that they think, wow.
I mean, I have mixed feelings these days. Because it becomes increasingly tied up with politics and other stuff, right? You've got to think that Sam Altman is definitely up there. The way he's just said he's going to do it and then done it. Right? He's done it multiple times. He's done it with. Followed him avidly when he was at Y Combinator, and then he left to do an AI thing, and everyone thought that was going to be the last of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yet now he's ruling the world, and he's got a very interesting view on things, controversial at times, but always thought provoking. It's always well worth listening to. I know that's not particularly original, but
we take inspiration from where it comes from. Ben, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show on such short notice. It's been a masterclass in all things fabric. I'm looking forward to playing with the product myself. Where can they find it? Where can they use it?
They can go to veed.io, and a little tidbit for you. We're about to bring out an API. So if you're a developer or hacker and you want to install this into your own app, DM me, or if you go to the Veed website, there's a little link at the bottom to get on the early bird waitlist.
Love it. Ben, an absolute pleasure.